preference by whether they're Republican or Democrat or hard or soft, and those traditional ways of looking at candidates and campaigns and households and voters. We look at precincts, we look at neighborhoods, and we look at how neighborhoods have voted historically, and we look at how neighborhoods vote on average. And when we find a neighborhood where on average they vote a certain way, but occasionally they vote for a conservative candidate more, we look at that as an opportunity. We look at that as a chance to do some of what Dan Alexander was talking about converting people. Because in this state, of course, we don't register to vote by party. People don't register by party affiliation. So people are free agents in Washington. People are all independents. And by looking at those historical trends and how a neighborhood votes, we rank the neighborhoods in a district, in a county, in a legislative district or a congressional district, or even statewide. We rank the neighborhoods by their persuadability, by looking at their history of voting and seeing, well, they usually vote, let's say, 30% for a Republican candidate, but occasionally they'll vote 60% for the right Republican candidate. When we see that kind of a spread, we look at it as opportunity, and we focus on that neighborhood with postcards, with doorbelling, with digital contacts entirely. We don't sort the houses by estimated Republican, estimated Democrat. We focus on every house in that neighborhood. And we find that this is the best way to flip a neighborhood, to flip a district, to flip a state. By talking to everyone and offering them the truth and better solutions, better policy points that will help improve their lives, whether it be lowering crime rates, whether it be lowering taxes, whether it would be improving the performance of K-12 public schools. And we find that this works, this focus on everyone in a precinct, everyone in a neighborhood, not just the R's or the D's, and not giving one message to someone we think is a Republican and a different message to someone we think is not. We make a unified message of fixing what's broken, and we find that that appeals to almost every person, at least every rational person in a neighborhood. So that's the focus that we're doing at the state party, and we hope that that is going to change hearts and minds. It's going to have people willing to vote for change in our state, and I think that's going to pay dividends in several key legislative districts around the state. Districts that send people to Olympia to fix what's broken there, and there's a lot that needs fixing.
Yep.
So now we're going to hear from a number of legislative candidates. We're going to start with the candidate for the state senate in the 5th legislative district, which is not here, but not far from
It's
here.
right here.
It is here. I'm wrong.
The edge.
He would know.
Right there.
Right there is the line.
Right there, I can see it.
Chad Magandez is an experienced legislator. He's been in the state house before, and now is running for the state senate from the 5th district. Chad.
Thanks, Jim. So I also sold my soul to the U.S. Navy for an Ivy League education. So I'm going to try to use my parade voice. Is that working for people?
Yeah.
All right, no bullhorn today.
All right.
All right, so I'm not going to belabor my qualifications just because I've had this job or something very similar for quite some time. I served 2 terms in the state house. I was immediately elected to leadership and then served both terms as ranking member of the House Education Committee. In addition to my 12 years in the Navy, I was 20 years at Microsoft, and I'm currently a school teacher. This is my 6th year teaching computer science in the Bellevue School District. I was also the president of the Viestico School Board, so I've had kind of a focus on education my entire political career. And certainly we've got a lot to do in education going forward, and I can speak from the trenches like a lot can't, because I've seen day to day what our kids are hearing from our teachers, from the administrators, and the focus we've lost on basics like academic achievement, career skills, and basic civics. So I was very happy to hear from John Braun, the minority leader, that if I win in November, I'll be stepping in as ranking member of Senate Education so I can continue a lot of the education policy work that I have done in the House and was hoping to do as Superintendent of Public Instruction. But I want to back up for a second here. This job is not all about qualifications. I mean, sure, it's great to have that, but some of it is just opportunity and timing. So I want to talk a little bit about the opportunity to pick up this seat. The Senate Republican Campaign Committee has been focused a lot on defensive maneuvers because if you're not aware, out in the 14th District, there's a new U.S. District Court that shuffled all the maps, and there's about 5 Republicans who got districted out of their district, and so they've had a lot of work trying to maintain those seats. And there's a good reason for them to want to maintain those seats because the Democrats in the Senate are 1 seat away from a supermajority. 1 seat. Now contrast that with my time in the legislature. I was elected in 2012. I served those 2 terms while we had a bipartisan legislature. We actually, for the beginning, we had a majority coalition. We had 2 Democrats come over to caucus with Republicans, so we had divided control. And people think, oh God, that must have been gridlock. Well, it was certainly harder to get things done, but we ended up with a much better work product because we were able to find common ground, and we were passing budgets with over 90% support. It was a much healthier state for the voters and the citizens with divided control in Olympia, because right now the only checks that we have on one-party rule is the initiative system, which, thanks to Brian, we're exercising fully. But if they get a supermajority in both chambers, they can actually modify the Constitution so that we no longer would have initiatives available as that final checks and balance. So, how did I do in the primary? Well, I'm happy to report I was the #1 potential pickup in the Senate. Maya Espinosa, a fantastic candidate as well, was just behind me. We can definitely pick up these 2 seats. Hers down in the 28th, me in the 5th. Now, if you look at the makeup of the turnout for the primary, it's what we affectionately call the Dolly Parton curve, okay? So if you have the hard R's here and the hard D's there, it looks a little like this. Okay? And I've actually run for this seat once before. I ran in 2016. I ran against the incumbent, Mark Mullet, who had run for governor now, so that's what opened up this particular seat. So I'm not running against an incumbent anymore. I'm running against an open seat. And frankly, Mark was a pretty good, moderate Democrat. So contrast was very difficult in that race. That's not the case this year. The guy I'm running against, so I have a side hustle, voter science. We actually do campaign tools. We do all the signature verification for the Let's Go Washington initiatives. And we went back and looked at how often people are voting with their caucus, party line voters, going all the way back as far as they've been publishing the results, which is back to 91. So it turns out that I'm the most independent representative for the 5th District, going all the way back there. The most partisan representative is my opponent. He is harder G than the Seattle delegation. It's like he doesn't even realize he's in a potential swing district. And so contrast has been fantastic this year. And so I can kind of hold up that I vote policy by policy. I try to balance my district. He's only voted with his district when initiatives or ballot measures or even advisory votes come to the ballot. 36% of the time he's voting with his district. He's completely out of touch. And so I'm obviously going to appeal a lot more to the center, and there are a lot of swing district voters in my district. And so that's a makeup that we expect to be completely different in the general, thanks, as Matthew Patrick Thomas mentioned, to the initiatives. They're going to drive a lot of turnout of swing voters. And so I need to pick up 3.8%. That's all. And you remember he was talking about how this is like a 4 to 6% swing? And that's not even considering the fact that we're still working hard in Enumclaw. One of the big advantages my district got was in the U.S. District Court shuffling. It hurt almost all the Republican districts, but the 5th picked up the conservative heart of King County, which is Enumclaw, and I've been spending day after day knocking on doors down there. I got 10,000 to add to the 35,000 that I've already knocked on in district. So we are making steady progress, making sure they turn up to support conservative candidates in November. So this is well within striking distance. Frankly, we've done it on a budget that you wouldn't believe. I spent $35,000 in the primary, okay? It's been hard raising money in this climate, obviously, but every dime counts. And so if you can help support us for the general, this is a potential pickup, and it could mean the difference about whether we have a supermajority in the Senate or not. So I'd appreciate your support. My name is Chad Mogendans. I'm running for Senate, and my website is voteforchad.com. Thank you very much.
Every bit of that, what he said, is true. The redistricting that